everyone! Good day! Ayan, so we are the group 2. And before anything else, I would like to introduce myself. I am Nanette Simini, and I am the one who will be discussing the first part. And with me today are Miles, Alexa, also we have Justin, Jisime, and Richelle. So I would like to introduce our topic, and this is it. Okay, so learners with difficulty remembering and focusing. And now, let me introduce to you our learning objectives. Okay, at the end of the lesson, the students are expected to first, explain the definitions of memory and attention functions. Second, identify characteristics and signs of students with difficulty remembering and focusing. Third, make appropriate strategies in teaching students with difficulty remembering and focusing. And lastly, promote the importance of using universal design for learning or UDL principles in teaching students with difficulty remembering and focusing. And we are hoping to achieve these learning objectives after our discussion. Okay? Before our discussion proper, let me introduce also our main points. So we have here the definition, identification, learning characteristics, and general adaptations that will be going to discuss by the reporters in our group. So first, my part is to discuss to you the definitions being found in our topic. I am going to discuss now. So the International Classification of Functioning, Disability, and Health of the World Health Organization in 2001 give definition to the following specific mental functions and focusing. Memory function, it includes long-term memory, short-term memory, and retrieval. And also attention function, it includes sustaining, shifting, dividing, and sharing attention. Okay, now we have memory function. So what is memory function? So it includes encoding, storage, and retrieval of information over time. So when we say encoding, this is the process in which the information being heard, being read, is being encoded in our brain. And then storage, if those information that we have listened, watched, or read is stored in our brain. And retrieval is when we are going to recall. Okay? So now, there are 3 types of memory function. First is short-term memory. So when we say short-term memory, of course, from the term short, so this pertains to mental resources that allow for storing information temporarily. So take note of the word temporarily. For only approximately 30 seconds. Yes, only 30 seconds ang span sa time nga mahinumduman sa bata kung unsa ang iyang nadungog, nabasa, or nadawat nga information. And then, after that, there will be a possibility nga makalimtan na niya if strategies is not used to integrate them into long-term memory. Naamo di ay strategies no nga gamiton aron nga ang short-term memory ma-enhance siya, and then those information that heard, listened, or read will be stored nga madugay-dugay pa sa utok, dili kay makalimtan lang dayon if there are strategies being applied. So for example, remembering a 7-digit landline number for a moment to be able to write it down. Okay, kay magsag-ura ka kaliyo ana no, and then imo siyang isuwat. So, another example is kanang magsuwat sa blackboard ang teacher, and then the teacher instructs the learners to write down what has been written on the board. And then ang buhaton sa children ana is magbasa na siya sa blackboard, and then og pila lang ka words or pila lang ka phrase, and then isuwat dayon niya sa iyang notebook. Example na siya sa short-term memory. Something ba? Next, we have long-term memory. So this is mental resources that allow for storing data information for a long period of time. So take note of the long period of time since long-term memory man siya. So ang activity nga itong ma-apply ani is like for example katong freshman no, during our midterm exam. Since face-to-face, makita gyud nato sa ato isig ka students that everyone was very busy studying. And then long-term memory was being used. Why? It's because the lesson being studied by the students are encoded and stored in the brain for a long period of time. We made ourselves ready for every exam that we about to take. Okay? And another example is there is a poem contest, and the child is required to memorize all the lines and stanzas of the poem. And that activity, long-term memory, is being used. So, get it? Okay. So, third is we have retrieval. So, what is retrieval? It is mental resources used to recall information stored in a long-term memory. So, from the word recall. Okay, example. So, ang mga natun-an sa Substat 3 nga by Suwans, katong mga lessons nga na-stored sa ilahang utok when they studied for the midterm exam, those will be considered as stock knowledge. And then, sa pagpadayon sa leksyon after the midterm exam, or kung baka sa other subjects, kung na ay ma-relate nga topic sa ilahang natun-anan, then, if the students will be able to recall, then that is retrieval. So next, so ang una man to no, kay memory function man to. Now, we are going to proceed attention functions. So what is attention functions? So this involves focusing on mental resources on a stimulus for a required time and period. So there is a stimulus nga kana whether if the students or if a child is being ginahatagan siya ni ini nga stimulus, kung maka-focus pa ba gihapon siya, or if maglisod na ba siya focus kung unsa ang iyahang kanang gibuhat. Okay, we have here three types of attention function. First, sustained attention. So sustained attention, this refers to mental resources used to maintain attention for an extended period, also called vigilance. So naay vigilance ang isa ka bata. Like for example, staying focused while reading a chapter in a classical novel without any interruption until it is finished. So there is focus in this type of attention function. So next is, we have selective attention. So when we say selective, it is a mental resources that allow for focusing on a specific stimulus that is important while ignoring others. Okay, example nato dire is focusing the voice of a lecturer amidst the noise of a group used to refocus concentration from one stimulation to another. So isa ka kanang example pod ani is during discussion, like for example in a classroom setting, no. So the teacher is discussing while your seatmate also talk a lot with your another classmate. So you are bothered. So there is what? Naay stimulus nga nakasamok nimo sa imong paminaw sa discussion ni teacher. But the child has the ability to usaman iyang ineglect tong banha sa iyahang seatmates nga nagtabi kay iyang gifocus ang pagpaminaw sa tingog ni teacher nga nagdiscuss. So iyang giselect nga paminawon si teacher nga nagdiscuss. Next is dividing attention. So this is a mental resources that involves on focusing on one or more activities or tasks simultaneously. So murag daghag utok ning daghag dunggan ning nang naay kuan ability aning dividing attention kay kuan man one or more activities or tasks nga dungano niya. So like for example, listening to music while driving. Okay, maka-focus gyapon ka pag drive, but also you are listening to the music. So another, nagsuwat ka pero naapoy nagsigig istorya nimo, nakay ka istorya. So that is dividing attention. To better understand learning disabilities, si Gargiulo on 2012 provided common components on the definition of LD or learning disabilities. So we have first, intellectual functioning within normal range. Second, significant gap or discrepancy between a student's assumed potential and actual achievement. Third, inference that LD is not primarily caused by other disabilities or extrinsic factors. And next, difficulty in learning in one or more academic areas. And lastly, it is presumption of CNS dysfunction. Okay, so these components are also found in the description provided by the National Joint Commission in Learning Disabilities in 1990. So, according to the National Joint Commission in Learning Disabilities, so ang learning disabilities is usa na siya ka general term nga nag-refer siya to a heterogeneous group of disorders manifested by significant difficulties in the acquisition and the use of listening, speaking, reading, writing, reasoning, or mathematical abilities. So, ang kanidang learning disabilities, general term lang na siya. Pero na klase-klase nga specification in which makonsider nato nga kana nga disability is a type of learning disabilities. So, these disorders are intrinsic. So, when we say intrinsic, within rasa, sulod sa bata. Dili siya influenced by the external factors. So, since this disorder is intrinsic to the individual, so it is presumed to be due to central nervous system dysfunction. So, ang utok dahil sa bata maoy na ay nag-dysfunction. And it may occur across the lifespan. Okay. So, problems in self-regulatory behaviors, social perception, and social interaction may exist with learning disabilities, but not by themselves constitute a learning disability. And next, we are going to know what is specific learning disability. So, when we say specific, of course, specific siya, dili na siya general. Kaya, di ba, ang learning disability, kung ano na siya nga term, general, but now, we are pertaining to specific learning disability. So, what is this? So, it focuses on difficulties in one or more basic psychological process involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or written, which may manifest as difficulties in the ability to listen, think, spark, read, write, spell, or do mathematical calculations. So, this is according to Individual with Disabilities Education Act of 1997 in Halana 2014. So, ang kanila specific learning disability is nag-focus ni siya sa difficulty sa one or more basic nga kanang psychological process bitaw nga kanang nag-involve ni siya sa diha sa pagsabot bitaw nimo sa isa ka language ba nga ginaistorya or pag-manifest nimo og kanang difficulties or naa kay difficulty nga maagian diha sa imong kanang ability sa pagpaminaw nimo, sa imong paghuna-una, sa pagsulat, sa pagbasa, or sa pag-calculate. Muna siya ang specific learning disability. And then, the term specific learning disability is okay. So, we have the three types of specific learning disability. First, we have dyslexia. So, when we say dyslexia, the child has difficulties with reading, spelling, or oral reading fluency. So, the child cannot read fluently kay kana inigbasa niya sa word na ay magbaylo-baylo ang mga letters. Also, dili siya magkakanang spell og tarong, dili mo siya makabasa og tarong. Kay ang iyang magong imagination ani is grabe kaayo ka kanang lala. And then we have dyscalculia. So, when we say dyscalculia, this refers to difficulties in math computations, problem solving, and analysis. So, the child is hina siya sa pag-compute. Okay? Next, and the last is dysgraphia. So, when we say dysgraphia, ang bata na ay difficulties with handwriting and written expression. So, klase-klase yun, no? Ang mga learning disabilities. That's it for my part. Now, I will give the time to Mr. Miles Cuarteros.